Hey everyone, welcome to Karcher Makes. I'm Andrea and today we're talking knitting. I have a couple of finished objects, I have a couple of works in progress, and I have a dilemma and we're gonna have to talk about it. So let's start with finished objects first, and I have two finished pairs of socks that I am super excited about. I cannot wait to wear these. So the first pair, these are I'm just calling them my Sock Week socks. These are the socks that I made for Sock Week, sponsored by Knitty Natty, and I only finished the one during the actual Sock Week, but I have finished the second one since then, and I just love how these turned out. These turned out so beautifully, and I can't wait to wear them. So the yarn that I used is Super Glow fiber, and it is just this super bright, fun, sparkly, and I know on the last time I showed this, the camera just did not pick up the sparkle, but I promise you that these are super sparkly in real life, and I love them. So the colorway for this is called Unicorn Sparkle, and I just chose to use my normal 64 stitch on a US 1.5 needle for this. I did a little pop of color at the top of the cuff here, 2x2 rib. And as far as the stitch pattern, I've talked about this in a couple different episodes now, but I just chose a stitch pattern out of one of my many numerous stitch dictionaries. This stitch pattern happens to be called the Purl Twist stitch, and I'm sure you can Google that and find it online as well. But if you guys are interested in this as a pattern, I can very much write it up for what I did. But there they are. This sock set came with a mini, so I did use the mini for the heel, and the heel is a shadow wrap heel. I find as far as the short row heels go that I've tried, that the shadow wrap heel fits my foot best, especially in shorter socks. I don't know what it is about short socks, but if I do a heel flap and gusset, it does not fit as nicely as a short row heel, particularly the shadow wrap heel. But there they are. They are finished. So the next pair of socks I finished, these I'm just calling summer socks. It's summer, I knit socks, that's the name. I'm really bad at naming things. If I don't use a pattern that already has a name, I have trouble just naming these for my Ravelry project pages. But these are completed, and these are a full leg version. This is also Super Glow yarn, and the colorway for this one is called Picture You, and this one does not have sparkle. They're both superwash merino nylon. This is 85-15. The other is, I think, 85-10-5, because that has the added sparkle in it. But for these, same thing, 64 stitches, US 1.5 needles, and kind of similarly to the other pair, I chose a stitch pattern out of one of my many stitch dictionaries, and this one is called the Seersucker pattern. And I'm not sure if it's really going to show up here, but it kind of makes this diamond texture. I'll block my face. Hopefully that's in focus and you can see that. But it makes this little kind of diamondy shaped texture out of the knits and pearls, and I just thought that was fun and pretty. So for these, I did an Eye of Partridge heel with a square heel instead of the normal sort of triangle heel. I find this fits really well. So there's those. Two finished objects this week. So While we're talking about socks, let's talk my next sock whip. So I mentioned in episode 30, the last episode posted, that I really wanted to cast on my hand spun socks. So in case you're new here, for Tour de Fleece this year, I worked on a sock spin where I spun 3 different colors of fiber, and then I created a swirled top from those 3 colors that then created a 4th color. And I can just show you these here. So lemon yellow, clementine orange, slate blue, and then this is all of them combined in that swirled top. It kind of makes almost like a gradient effect in the yarn. And this is 3-ply opposing ply yarn, which means I spun singles, 2 singles Z, I spun 1 single S, and then I plied those 3 together all at once, S. And it results in a very strong, springy yarn that is perfect for socks. So these are the yarns that I spun. And this is all living in my Shannon's Fun Bags possum bag, which, if you're new here, I love very much. This is now my go-to sock bag for all my work in progress socks. But here's where I'm at with the sock itself. So I'm using a pattern out of Ply Magazine, and I think it's just called like Simple Stripes Socks. And it's a very simple ribbed pattern. And then each kind of ribbed color section is separated by this eyelet row. And I'm choosing to do those eyelet rows in the blended yarn, just to give it a little bit of offset from the other colors. And these are working up fairly quickly. I will say though that I'm gonna have a lot of ends to weave in on these, and that's not gonna be fun, but I think because these are my first hand spun socks, it's going to be worth it. So one thing to note about these socks, the pattern itself is written for toe up socks, the pattern in the issue of Ply Magazine. I don't do toe up socks, and because this is a non-directional pattern, meaning it doesn't matter if it goes this way or this way, it's going to look the same because it's just ribbing and eyelets. I just converted it to top down. I just took the leg pattern and said, okay, I'm just going to do that from top down instead of from the toe up, and it's fine. The only time you kind of get into trouble with converting toe up patterns to cuff down is if they are directional, like there's a specific direction the pattern needs to go in to make sense. These don't have that, so it wasn't a big deal. I previously showed a pair of socks that I did that with. They were the speckled space socks, and with those socks, and I will just kind of demonstrate on this sock here. So on those socks, it had like a chevron pattern that pointed towards the toe, and when I converted it to be cuffed down, I had to do a little finagling of the pattern, meaning I had to start the chart at the top left instead of the bottom right like you normally would do, and it turned out fine. But these are on the needles, and I'm very excited to get these going. The pattern also calls for a heel flap and gusset, and I'm not doing that. So like I mentioned with those other socks, for shorty socks, which is what these are going to be, the shadow wrap heel fits my foot better for those. So I'm going to do a shadow wrap heel next. That's my next step for this sock. So that's as far as I'm taking the leg. Did a 2x2 cuff. And then next up, it will be the heel, and then proceed on through the foot. But those got cast on, and it's been really interesting to work with my hand spun. And you can kind of even see here in the little strands that are hanging, you can see how overspun, especially the yellow. The yellow was the first one that I did, and you can really see how it loops back on itself. It's overspun, but knitting up with it, the way I tension my yarn is through my two fingers, my pointer finger and my middle finger. I tension it almost like a cigarette, which is kind of gross, but I kind of tension it like that, and it helps keep the tension straight. So as I'm knitting with it, those little coily bits kind of just get absorbed, and you can see here from the sock that it really doesn't make a material difference in it, but it's really been a learning experience, not just spinning that yarn, but also knitting with it. Highly recommend if you're interested in spinning yarn. Yes, spin, but also work with it, whether it's crochet, whether it's knitting. Really work with your yarn, because that is going to inform you possibly about how to improve it. And in this case, I know that to improve my sock yarn next time, don't ever spin it. So that's the sock portion of this program. Now we can talk about the garments that I've been working on. So I have two garments on the needles. One is a t-shirt, the other is a cardigan, and I'm gonna show you the t-shirt first because y'all, we gotta talk about this cardigan. We gotta talk about that. So let me start with this one first, since this one is going swimmingly. So it's all bunched up because I use fairly short needles, but this is the Uptown Tee by Tori Yu, and I've made a significant amount of progress since the last time you saw this. So the last time you saw it, it was literally just the neckline and a few rows of the sleeve and body raglan to start. But since then, I've gotten quite a bit done. I am almost to the point where I can split for the sleeves. And this is, again, a top-down seamless raglan design. The sleeves have this really pretty eyelets going down both of them. And the yarn is Rising Tide Fiber Company Calvert fingering, which is 100% superwash merino, and the colorway is Radiant Recovery. So there is that. I will be excited to split out the sleeves on this, because then it's just going to be stockinette city in the round for several inches before I have to worry about thinking about anything else. And I don't know about you guys, I kind of go through phases where I want something that's a little bit more complex and requires me to think more about it in terms of like a pattern. And then there's other times where like I just can't be bothered and I want to do stockinette. And this is kind of the best of both worlds. The beginning requires some thought with the eyelets and the increasing and all of that. But then after that, split for the sleeves, all stockinette. So there's that one. And I did make some changes in the bags that I'm using. So I did have this cardigan in my redesigned Project 9 bag, my redesigned Stephen West collab. It was way too big for that bag, so I switched over and put this t-shirt in it, and that seems to fit much better, especially considering one half of this bag is taken up with my Notions pouch. Okay, let's talk about this cardigan. So I showed this as a whip on the last episode as well, and I was very excited with my progress. I really like these colors together. I like the yarn. All of that is fantastic. And to be honest, I like the pattern, and I'm already thinking about making this again in a different yarn. I gotta figure this out first though, y'all. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about where I'm at. So here is the cardigan so far, and this is yarn from Schweitzer's Fiber Mill. It was unlabeled yarn that they had like in a bargain bin at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I paid $10 a ball for it, and I have 6 balls, 3 of each color. That's going to become relevant here in a second. So I cast on the size 5, I believe it is. The pattern is written in metric only, which is fine. Like, I get it. The Americans, United States, we're like, well, we're a lot of things right now, but we're the holdout on the metric system. So I don't mind that it's written in metric, but I picked a size that I thought would go well with the amount of positive ease that I want in a cardigan, and mistakes were made. So I did swatch for this. I did get gauge. My gauge is not the problem with this project. I really think the size that I picked is the problem, and it's not a problem with the pattern. Like I said, the pattern's very straightforward, easy to follow. This would be a great first garment for a beginner knitter, in my opinion. So I picked size 5, which basically is the equivalent of a 42-inch bust. I prefer a 40-inch garment for the bust, for the high bust. And I know I wanted a couple little bit of positive ease because this is a cardigan that will go over other clothing. So I did want some positive ease in it. Not like this though, y'all. This thing has a lot of positive ease in it. And you can just see here, look how big the armhole is. Like, I could fit 2 of my heads in this armhole. And again, by design, this pattern has quite a bit of positive ease in it. I did not intend this to happen. So real quick, I was on the Charm City Ewenicorns Zoom knit along for the Charm City Pink Along. They had a Zoom on Friday night, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm working on my cardigan, I'm knitting away, I'm counting stitches. My stitch count was correct after all my raglan increases, and that never happens to me. Like, I'm always having to fudge a stitch here or there. But I'm knitting away, and then I put the sleeves on hold, and then I started knitting what is the body. And as I was knitting, I was like, this doesn't look right. Something's up here. This, again, the size of this sleeve, like, it's probably 20 times bigger than I need it to be. So I kept going because that's who I am as a person. I just kept going. I'm like, it's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. So I kept going, and I did knit probably, 5 or 6 inches of the body here. And then clearer minds prevailed the next morning, and I'm looking at this in like the daylight, and I had coffee and all things were firing in my brain, and I was like, I can't keep going with this. I'm gonna run out of yarn. I only have, like I mentioned, 6 skeins of this yarn, which is approximately 1,200 yards, assuming each skein is 200 yards. It's a worsted weight yarn. Again, it was unlabeled, so I'm really not sure, but I'm fairly certain that's what it is. So then I thought, well, I can always kind of fudge the body, but I can't fudge the sleeves. Like, I don't want it to be short sleeve. I want it to be long sleeve. So the sleeves need to be the priority. So I started knitting the sleeve, and this is the second go round. So the first go round, I followed the pattern. The decreases in the pattern are every however many rows. I was following that, and again, they were just so huge at the top. So then I ripped it back, and I said, okay, let me decrease faster than what the pattern called for. Let me decrease twice as fast. So like, I don't remember what the pattern said. Just say it says 10. decrease every 10 rows, I'm going to decrease every 5. And that's what I did here. And that really did help kind of cinch in the arm here. But as I kept going, it's still like a lot of fabric in this area. So let me hold it like this. So this raglan area, it's a lot of fabric. And when I tried it on, it was a lot of fabric, just extra bunching like under my arms, and I can't stand that. So I was like, I can't work on this anymore today. I have to put this down. I can't think about it. I don't want to work on it. I really need to come up with a solution to this problem. And again, I just want to highlight, the problem is me. It is not the pattern. For starters, I should have made a smaller size. And I don't know if it was just the conversion from centimeters to inches that I did that made me pick size 5. I'm not sure. I don't know if it has to do with the amount of positive ease built into this, but I feel like I should make a smaller size to remedy these issues. Now, I do have this book, Knitting Bag of Tricks by Patty Lyons, and this is such a good reference book. Hashtag not sponsored. She doesn't know me. I bought this quite a while ago. I also have the workbook that I've yet to even like kind of look at or get into. But I wanted to read to see what she had to say about specifically sweater fit, different gauge, although I got the gauge the pattern called for, but I still wanted to read about it. And then really understanding how I could remedy this without ripping the entire thing out, which I can absolutely do that. I could rip this whole thing out. I really don't want to though. For one, each one of these stripes I cut the yarn for, and it's going to be a bajillion tiny little balls of, you know, these two colors, which again, I'm going to be restriping it, so that's not the end of the world. But I'm reading in here that she talks a lot about specifically raglan increases and how to get the correct size to kind of fit you well. And then this page just really made me laugh. And so it says, better to have knit and ripped than never to have knit at all. And I just think that's funny and true. So what I think I'm gonna do, and this is where I need your help, please leave a comment below. What would you do in my situation? Would you rip this all the way back and then cast on a smaller size? Or would you do what I'm leaning towards doing, which is ripping it back? Yes, I'm going to lose all this sleeve progress that I've done. I'm going to lose most of the body progress that I've done. But rip it back to a point in the raglan increases that makes sense for the fit that I want. Now, the back is still going to be the back because obviously I've already cast all of that on. But if I were to just rip back to like here, maybe, then yeah, that's a lot of wasted work, but the whole thing is not lost, right? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? So to figure out where I would want those raglan increases to stop and where I want my sleeve split to be, one of the recommendations that Patty has in this book is to take a look at another garment that you have, and it could even be like a commercially made garment, but take a look at that and see how it fits, see what you like about it, measure it, and then use that measurement. So I went and pulled out my best fitting garment that I've ever knit, which is the Flax DK. Ta-da! This is knit out of Feederbrook Farms, and it has my hair all over it. It's knit out of Feederbrook Farms. I used mill ends for this. It's a wrinkly mess because I've worn it several times and it could probably use a little freshening. But this is also raglan style. Now, it's not a cardigan, it's a pullover, but I don't think that matters. And if I take a look at the raglan increases on this one, and again, this is DK, so obviously the actual row and stitch counts are going to differ than what I'm doing in that cardigan because it's worsted weight. But if I take a look at the raglan on this one, and if I measure from the collar down to the split, that's about, I measured it earlier and I think it was like maybe 8.5 inches or so. 8 inches, 8.5 inches. This one, it's like, let me get it situated here. On this one, it's like 13. So, tell me what you think. I think I'm going to do is rip this back to about the 9-inch mark on the raglan increases and then split the sleeves. And I feel like that is going to give me a better fit, number one. And then number two, help me with my I'm not gonna have enough yarn to finish this project problem. So tell me what you think. Do you think I should just completely rip the whole thing out and start over? Or do you think I can salvage this by just taking back the raglan increases, redoing the split at a shorter point in the cardigan, and then going down from there? Tell me what you think, because I need the help. So I really love how these colors are working up, and I really want this to be a piece that I love wearing, and that is why I want to take the time to kind of correct the sizing mistake that I've made. Would you call this a sizing mistake? I really want to correct that because I want this to be a piece that I wear and that I love. So I really want to take the time to fix it up and make sure that it's done right. So that's all I have for you for the knitting portion this time. I've really been enjoying all these knits over the past couple weeks since we last spoke. I think having different types of projects on the needles kind of concurrently has really helped me scratch the itch of what I feel like in the moment. If I'm just feeling like I want to do plain stockinette knitting, I have my cardigan. If I want to do something a little more involved with some lace, I have the t-shirt. And then if I want to work on a sock, there's always socks. But overall, I think I've had a productive couple weeks since we last spoke, and I'm already thinking about, and I have no business thinking about what's next, but I'm already thinking about what garment I want to make next. And I really think that it is going to be a scrappy one. So stay tuned for that. I also want to start another spinning project. I've not touched my wheel since Tour de Fleece ended. I really want to work on those socks and use the time to work on the socks. Because those are short socks, I feel like those will go fairly quickly. But in terms of the next project on the wheel, I'm still undecided. I did download one of Andrea Mallory's patterns, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it. It's the cowl version of the shawl that she just came out with, where it's the two colors, high contrast. I'll put the name of it here when I edit this. I really want to spin for that. And I have some fiber that I think might work for that, although I'm also kind of considering doing a loop bump from Loop Fiber Studio. They sell loop bumps that are kind of concentric colors that I think would be really pretty in that project. I don't know, I'm undecided. In addition to that, with the Ply Guild that I joined a couple months ago, so we had a Zoom meetup yesterday for the Guild, and we got a little preview of the next issue of Ply, which is going to be a plants issue. And they are having us kind of vote on what project we want to make from the plant issue. And there's a couple that I'm not going to make. If they choose to make it, it's fine. I'm not going to spin or knit or make them otherwise. But there's a couple in there that I really like. And I'm really intrigued with the idea of spinning flax. Now, there's a couple different types of flax. There's a couple different preparations. I don't know yet. I'm going to learn along with them. But I may end up doing a linen project. I don't know. We're going to find out, but that was really intriguing to me. Also, I still have this desire and this want and this deep-seated need to spin for a sweater. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year or not, but I really need to kind of sit down and really think about, like, what do I want the next spinning project to be so that I can continue my momentum with practicing my spinning, learning more about it, and then just in general, I just want to become a better spinner. I want to become more proficient at it. And then, of course, using the Handspun is always fantastic. In terms of acquisitions, I have no new acquisitions this week. I did order Frogget Yarns has a monthly yarn club, and I have never ordered any of them. The theme this year, it's all book theme. So Tasha picks a book that she wants everybody to read along with, and then she dyes the yarn to match the cover of the book. And the colors are always amazing. I love her style of dyeing. But for September, she picked a book I already have. Well, I've downloaded it. I use a Kindle, but she picked a book I already have, which is a bonus. And the cover is so pretty. And I just know that her yarn is going to be amazing. So I did order for the first time her yarn club, and that should be coming. I just ordered it on Friday, so I don't know when it comes. I think it comes a couple weeks later, but I will definitely show that to you guys when it comes in. As far as life stuff, nothing too exciting there. I'm still working through my garden. I got a really good harvest this past weekend. There was all kinds of peppers that were ready to pick. I got a few tomatoes, and the rest of the tomatoes are going crazy. It is like a tomato forest in there, and I'm going to have a ton of tomatoes to can, make sauce. I like making salsa. I call it fotel. It's like rotel, but faux rotel. I like making that because I use that in a lot of different recipes. But the rain has certainly helped, although we did have a bit of a dry spell for like 3 or 4 days. Like, we didn't get any rain at all. And then the past couple of days we've gotten quite a bit of rain. So they seem to be very happy. Everybody's growing. I feel like my beans are kind of finishing up for the season. I'm not sure yet if I'm even going to try to plant more. At this point, I'll have to look to see when the end frost date is for the season, because I mean the beans do grow pretty quickly. I think the germination's something like 45 days on those. But if I can't get anything else planted, it's fine. I can always get out there and just get everything prepped for the fall. Speaking of that, I haven't talked about cooking here in a while. So I did make a shepherd's pie last week, and we love shepherd's pie. And this is not the like elementary school lunch shepherd's pie where they use ground beef and it's basically ground beef and mashed potatoes all slopped together. I used some ground lamb that I picked up at Maryland Sheep and Wool back in the spring, and I use a Gordon Ramsay recipe, and it is so good. It uses red wine, it uses Worcestershire sauce, veggies, potatoes for the mashed potato topping, and it was so good. And I personally love eating lamb. I don't eat beef. I don't like beef, but I do love lamb. And to be able to support a local farm with that is just important to me. You know, a lot of farmers rely heavily on federally subsidized programs, and a lot of that is being threatened right now by the current administration. So anything that I can do to help a local farmer, help support them, if it's within my means, I'm happy to do so. So that's all I have for you this week, episode 31. That's a lot of knitting, y'all. It's a lot of making. I hope you have an amazing week. I hope you find time for your crafts and you're able to do whatever it is that makes you happy. For me, that is definitely anything yarn related. That's my happy place. That's my zen place. That's what keeps me sane. And until next time, happy making.